stay with us! We're almost there! Clear the way! Coming through! Vitals are dropping! Move faster!
For years, tensions between the United States and Iran have simmered beneath the surface. Sanctions, nuclear disputes, proxy conflicts, and political threats exchanged across podiums and press conferences. But now the world is watching a dramatic escalation that could redefine the balance of power in the Middle East.
The incursion is here, moving towards
Reports
the border.
of coordinated military strikes involving the United States and Israel targeting sites inside Iran have sent shockwaves through global politics, financial markets, and diplomatic circles.
Can we confirm the origin point?
According to multiple international sources, strategic locations linked to Iran's military infrastructure were struck in a series of highly coordinated operations. These strikes were described as precise and intelligence-driven, aimed at weakening Iran's strategic capabilities. Explosions were reported in key regions, and air defense systems were activated as tensions moved from rhetoric to real confrontation. This moment did not happen overnight. The roots of this conflict stretch back decades. Since the 1979 Iranian Revolution, relations between Washington and Tehran have remained hostile. The dispute intensified over Iran's nuclear program, with the United States and its allies accusing Iran of seeking nuclear weapons capability, while Iran insists its program is for peaceful energy purposes. Sanctions followed, diplomatic agreements were signed and later abandoned, and trust between the two sides deteriorated further. Israel, meanwhile, has long viewed Iran's military expansion and regional influence as an existential threat. Iranian-backed groups operating in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen have increased tensions across the region. Israeli officials have repeatedly stated that they would not allow Iran to develop advanced weapon systems that could threaten Israeli security. The recent joint action appears to reflect years of growing strategic alignment between Washington and Tel Aviv on confronting Tehran's regional influence. In response to the strikes, Iranian officials have condemned the attacks as acts of aggression and vowed retaliation. State media broadcast images of damage and emergency response teams, while military leaders promised a decisive answer. Within hours, reports emerged of retaliatory actions targeting U.S. interests and allied positions in the broader region. Missile alerts were activated in several Gulf areas, and defense systems were placed on high alert. The risk now is not just a bilateral conflict, it is regional escalation. The Middle East operates within a fragile network of alliances and rivalries. Gulf states host American military bases. Militant groups aligned with Iran operate beyond its borders. Israel faces threats on multiple fronts. Any sustained exchange of strikes could pull additional actors into the confrontation. Global powers are reacting quickly. China and Russia have called for restraint and dialogue. European leaders are urging immediate de-escalation and emergency diplomatic talks. The United Nations has convened urgent consultations, warning that continued military escalation could destabilize global security and economic stability, and the economic implications are already visible. Oil markets are volatile as traders anticipate potential disruption to supply routes through the Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point through which a significant portion of the world's oil passes. Stock markets have reacted nervously, reflecting fears that a prolonged conflict could impact global trade, inflation, and energy prices. But beyond geopolitics and economics lies the human cost. Civilians in affected areas face uncertainty, fear, and displacement. Every military action carries consequences for families caught between governments and armed forces. Hospitals prepare for casualties. Airspace closures disrupt travel. Communities brace for what might come next. One of the most pressing questions now is whether this escalation is limited or the beginning of a broader campaign. Military analysts suggest that both sides may attempt calibrated responses, strong enough to demonstrate power but controlled enough to avoid all-out war. However, history shows that conflicts can spiral quickly, especially when pride, politics, and national security narratives are involved. Another critical factor is domestic politics. Leaders on all sides face internal pressures, from public opinion, from political rivals, and from security establishments demanding strength. In moments of crisis, governments often balance external strategy with internal expectations. So what happens next? There are several possible paths. The first is rapid escalation, continued strikes and counterstrikes that widen the battlefield and involve additional regional players. The second is controlled confrontation, limited actions followed by back-channel negotiations to prevent further damage. The third is diplomatic intervention, international mediators stepping in to broker a temporary ceasefire and reopen negotiations. History reminds us that U.S.-Iran tensions have reached dangerous levels before. There have been moments of near confrontation, targeted assassinations, cyber operations, and proxy clashes, yet full-scale war was avoided through strategic restraint and diplomacy. Whether this moment follows that pattern remains uncertain. For now, the world watches carefully. Governments are recalculating strategies, military commanders are on alert, diplomats are working behind closed doors, financial markets react by the hour. Social media amplifies fear, speculation, and political narratives. This is not just a regional story, it is a global one. Energy markets, international shipping lanes, counterterrorism strategies, and great power competition all intersect in this unfolding situation. A prolonged conflict could reshape alliances, alter defense policies, and shift the geopolitical landscape for years to come. At the same time, there is still space for diplomacy. Crisis hotlines exist for moments like this. Back-channel negotiations often begin when public rhetoric reaches its peak. History shows that even the most hostile adversaries sometimes choose dialogue when the cost of war becomes too high. The coming days will be critical. Every statement, every military movement, every diplomatic meeting will signal the direction this crisis may take. Will this confrontation settle into a tense standoff? Will it escalate into a broader regional war? Or will international pressure push all sides back to the negotiating table? What is certain is that we are witnessing a pivotal moment in Middle Eastern geopolitics. The balance of deterrence, power, and diplomacy is being tested in real time, and the decisions made now will shape not only the region but the global order itself. As events continue to unfold, one question remains at the center of it all. Is this the beginning of a larger war, or the brink from which leaders step back before it's too late?